Okay, welcome back everyone. Welcome. This has been, I think, one of the most prompt, wonderful audiences. Everyone's here on time, everyone's sitting, everyone's attentive. So this is fantastic. And also the fact that I'm the last person, you all, because Sarah and Debbie have done such a good job, you all seem really awake and alert. So thank goodness for them, because they've obviously done a fantastic job. So as you know, I'm Jenny Garrett, here to talk to you about being solution focused. So I'm going to talk to you about a little tool that you can help to really help you think differently and really help you act differently, and maybe even as a catalyst to really help you propel your success. But I thought I'd start by telling you a little bit about me and my journey, because today's about enterprise, and I, like Sarah and Debbie, run my own business. So I wanted to tell you about how I did that, how I got to run my own business and what I do. Then I want to introduce you to what it means to be solution focused. And then lastly, I want to leave you with my 3 A's, which I believe will really help you develop your confidence, the thing that I think often holds us women back. Does that sound okay? Is everyone up for that? Good, good. Pleased to hear it. So, a bit about me. There's a few, I thought I'd share it for you in pictures. So, I've been running my own business since 2006. A leadership and coaching consultancy called Reflection Associates. I came to run my own business after working in corporate roles. So I worked for Schroeder Leasing, Hamptons International, and then I went to work for Ashridge Business School. And at Ashridge, a colleague who was very pushy, but has also now become one of my closest friends, came into my office and just said to me, "What next? What are you going to do with your life? You're as far as you can go here. You're getting too cozy. Where are you moving on to?" Does anyone recognise that feeling of maybe being a bit too cosy, it's all a bit too easy, but not knowing what the next step could be? And she really helped me think about that. She said, well, the best thing to do would be to start teaching marketing, because I was responsible for marketing and communications. She said, why don't you start teaching marketing and communications on some of our leadership programs? Now, at that time, I was really nervous of public speaking. I was not confident or a competent public speaker. And the thought of speaking in front of groups of people and audiences terrified me. So I immediately rolled that out, which is really interesting, as it's something I do nearly on a day-to-day basis now. So, you know, this thing about transformation and change is very possible, because I'm living proof that, you know, if you can't speak one day, in the future you possibly can, if that's something you really want to do. And then she said to me, okay, you don't want to do that. What about moving? Why not get a bigger job and a bigger budget somewhere else? And again, at that time, I had a very small daughter. My daughter was 1 year old. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to have a really long commute. I find it difficult and challenging in terms of seeing my daughter and how I wanted to live my life. And the last thing she said was, what about coaching? Faculty come into your office on a daily basis, they come away with actions, they come away motivated. Actually, you're coaching them, you're a really good listener, but you really help them take action. And I wasn't sure if she was telling the truth or if she was just flattering my ego, because I had this L-shaped office, and faculty, I believe, came in at lunchtime to hide. I really believe that's what they were doing. But she said I was coaching them, so I just said, okay, if you say so. And I thought, something that Debbie said about being committed to your continuous development. I've always have been and always am the sort of person, if someone offers me an opportunity to learn, to develop, to read a book, to go on a course, to have a conversation, I'd grab it, because there's always some little nugget of information that you can take. So I thought, oh, they're going to support me to go on a coaching program. I'll go for it. I'll put it on my CV. But I actually found this postgraduate certificate in coaching personally and professionally transformational. It was hard for my family. I'd come home to my husband after a few days on the course, and I'd say, oh, sit down, darling. Let's unpack a few things about our relationship. and he'd sort of roll his eyes and say, oh my God, what's going on here? Luckily, he didn't leave me. And we worked through a lot, and it was really, really helpful, because I thought marketing for me was the be-all and end-all. It was what I wanted to do. It was my passion. But I realised that actually having transformational coaching conversations, really being able to make a difference in people's lives, really learning from other people and guiding them to develop, was what I wanted to do. So it was a great point to know, have that place, this is what I want to do. But then it was, how how to do it. You know, I was in a dual income family with my husband, not just taking a leap and saying, oh, I'm not going to earn any income now, you know, support me in that, was not, was not an option. And I got a coach myself, and I explained to him that I really wanted to coach, and that actually Ashridge, where I worked, they supported me to coach, and they'd let me coach a little bit on leadership development programs, but they wouldn't let me have that as a full-time role. And I said to my coach, I really want to do this, I don't know how to do it. And together we hatched this plan, which was for me to work 4 days a week at Ashridge, and on my last day to build my business, and to set myself a target of how much I'd earn, how much, when I earned at that point, that's the point I could take the leap, because it wasn't such a leap, it was kind of a safe thing to do. And we did that, and luckily I was able to go down to 4 days a week. And within a year, I'd hit my target and I was freelance. And that was in 2006. And I started off just providing one-to-one coaching. I went on to do a master's in management learning and leadership. There's me graduating, which was a fantastic thing. And I started to develop and deliver leadership development programs, coaching accredited programs, alongside providing one-to-one coaching. I was always, after I completed my master's, I was always on the lookout for something I could study, do a PhD in, because I remember my tutor saying to me, next step, PhD. It would be, come back and when you're ready. And I read this article by a lady in Australia called Rebecca Messenbeck about female breadwinners. I hadn't really heard the term before, and I hadn't really thought about it. But when I read her article, it kind of just hit me. I was the female breadwinner. I was the main earner in my home. Because when I started my business, it really took off, and I started earning a reasonable amount of money. And at the same time, my husband, who'd been an accountant, decided to follow his passion and work with young people, disaffected young people who'd been excluded from school, who'd called naughty children. And it was perfect for him, because whenever people met him before, they'd always say, you're not an accountant. No, you're kidding me. You're not an accountant. It's just not what you do. He wasn't in the right job. And actually, he'd been a naughty boy himself, so he really did relate to these naughty kids. But he could, guide them on the right path. So on paper, it wasn't a problem. I was earning more, he was earning less, but we were still earning. So what's the issue? Well, the issue is that actually being the main earner is a challenge as a woman. I felt torn between having a child and my commitment to work. I felt annoyed sometimes when my mother-in-law would come round and give my husband a pat on the back about the fact that we'd just redecorated or we'd just got a new car, and it was him who was getting all the credit. And little things like, you'd go to, as you do now, as it still happens, when you go to the restaurant, who does the blooming waiter give the bill to? The man. Always the man. And it's like, what do? Do you slide the credit card under the table? Do you make a joke and say you're paying today? Do you not go to that restaurant again because you can't do the same joke every time? What do you do? And also things for me, like actually it went to my head a little bit. And I was doing things like maybe making decisions without really consulting my husband properly, because it was my money. Well, in a relationship, it's our money. But I was making some mistakes. So this article really brought it home to me. I'm a big fan of the internet, and I sent some messages out into the world just saying, are you the female breadwinner? Are you the main earner? What's it like for you? And one woman sent a message back. She said, I was the main earner for 3 years, and those were dark days. And I just thought no one should feel like that. It shouldn't feel like a burden. It shouldn't feel like the worst thing in the world. It actually should be something that women can celebrate. It shouldn't be a burden. It should be something that we recognise as a choice. And we should still be able to craft the life we want. So I went back to my university and said, I'm going to do my PhD in female breadwinners. When can I start? And they said, oh, you can start. It will take 4 to 7 years part-time. And I thought, oh, I can't wait. I'm really impatient. I'm just going to do some research myself. And I started doing some research and thought I'd write an article. But after sitting with and listening to women's experience, combined with my own experience, I had so much information really that I wrote my book, Rocking Your Role. And how strange that Debbie's thing today was about rocking your roles in life. So definitely there's a lot of synergy between all of this speaking today. So my book is about crafting the life you want. But as I said, I've really focused on leadership as well as thinking about women. And I think that leadership is about self-leadership just as much as it is about leading others. So the tool that I'm going to share with you is really thinking about how can I lead myself to success and how can I then lead others to success at the same time. But I really think it starts with you. Can I ask here, who's a mentor? Okay, a few of you. And who has a mentor? Okay, around the same group of people actually. So I'm a mentor for the Cherry Blair Foundation. I mentor women in developing countries who are starting up businesses. My current mentee is in Botswana. My last mentee was in South Africa. I find it a hugely valuable thing to do. I learn just as much as my mentee does. If you're sitting here thinking, I don't have anything to share, particularly if you're maybe thinking, I'm a student, I'm learning myself, I want to say that's rubbish. Yeah? I want to start by saying that's rubbish. Everyone in this room has some knowledge or experience that you can share and help others with. And I'd really encourage you to go out and mentor other people and find a mentor yourself or many mentors yourself. But mentoring other people helps you to realize how much you know. It's a way of really helping and sharing. And it's a really good thing to do. And I mentioned my daughter and my husband. And the bottom right, there we are when we went to the Olympics. What makes me do the work I do, as well as being really passionate about supporting women, is really about having a daughter and inspiring her. And sometimes people don't talk so much about their families. It's not always the right thing to do in a business environment. But really, she's what inspires me. I think when you have children, you're a role model. Even if you don't, you're a role model. And actually, I don't know about, if you think about your parents or the people you look up to, when they do something, it inspires you to surpass them. When they do something and achieve something, you believe you can do more. Yeah? It must be easy if they could do it. And every day I push myself in order that I know that she'll push herself further as a result. So that's really what I'm about. This year I was really honoured to win the Association of Professional Trainers, Coaches and Consultants Women's Coach of the Year. And that was a real honour for me to win. And I'm talking about it not because I won it, but because I bet there are women in here who's gone for an award or been nominated or received an award in here. 2, 3, 3 people, 4 people. I imagine a lot more of you could be going for awards, be nominating yourself, nominating others, and being recognised for what you're doing. It's a great thing to do to apply to go for an award because you have to share your success. You have to say what you've done that makes you deserving. And if you're too bashful or too self-deprecating to do that, get someone else to nominate you. Or nominate other people. We really need to blow our own trumpets more. Have you ever seen someone get an award and think, well, I know someone just as good or better than them. Why didn't you nominate them? Yeah? So one really good way to get yourself seen, to demonstrate your gravitas, as Sarah was saying, is to go for things to be externally recognised for what you do. And this year I worked with Nivea, the skincare brand, to do some research about the next generation of women coming through. We surveyed 2,700 women who were 18 to 30 years old, who I call the Happinistas, the new breed of women coming through and how they look at their career and how they develop it. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But there's a lot of lessons to be learned from people who are 18 to 30 for those who are older. We can learn wisdom from our elders, but we can learn wisdom from those younger as well. There's so much for us to share. So, as I said, that was a bit about me. And now I want to talk to you about what it means to be solution focused. Has anyone come across this term before? Yes, 2 people, 3 people, lovely. Has anyone had coaching or counselling training in the room? Okay, so a few of you. So this is about translating some of the theory of really thinking about brief therapy. It's about thinking about how we can do things in a time-effective way to really be successful. So when time and money are scarce, how do you motivate your team and yourself to increase your performance and productivity? Who has all the time they need? No one. Who has all the resources and money they need? None of us. We are really working in a time of scarcity, aren't we? And when we do that, we really have to be focused on what we spend our time and our money on. It's imperative. I don't know about you, but I have a to-do list and I never get to the bottom of it. We just really have to prioritize and focus on what's really important. So taking a solution-focused approach is a quick, most importantly, effective and positive method of raising the bar and releasing the time you need to be strategic. And when I say that, I mean, we can be involved in 100 tasks on a daily basis, but often we need to step back and look at what's really important. We need to step back and think about what's going to make the difference. I don't know if you're familiar with the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. 20% of what you're doing is going to give 80% of the impact. You owe it to yourself to know what that 20% is, rather than spending 80% of our time doing something that maybe isn't that useful. Perhaps you could go home early, have a lunch break, have some me time, if you were able to do that successfully. So in this session, you'll be introduced to the underpinning theory of solution-focused approach. We're going to practice being solution-focused, and you're going to take away ideas on how you can use these skills immediately in the workplace. Because you know what happens if you don't practice it in this room and you can't practice it easily tomorrow, it's going to go, it's going to be forgotten, or your bit of paper is going to go on a shelf getting dust somewhere. That's not what I want for you. I really want you to take action. So, as I said, what you're going to get from it? Introduced to a new tool to enhance your leadership, be consciously aware of the skills needed to be solution focused, take a new positive approach to motivating staff and yourself, and help people feel resourceful enough to take action. If you don't feel appreciated, you've got low morale, you're exhausted, you don't feel like you can take action. You can't see the wood for the trees in terms of what your next step is. And you're going to understand the importance of affirming staff and affirming yourself. So today is about networking. And you've sat on a table with other people, but you may not have spoken to them all, or you may have spoken to all of them, but maybe not someone on another table. I just want you to take a minute before we move on to introduce yourself to someone who you haven't spoken to, and who you don't know. And I just want you to say who you are and what you do, and just generate a little conversation. You've only got 2 minutes to do so, for someone you haven't spoken to and that you don't know in this room.
Some around here.
Have you both introduced? Have you done it already? Have you both introduced yourselves? Yes? Okay. Okay, if you can bring in your conversations to a close, please, and sit back down. If everyone could take their seats, please. Thank you. Thank you. So another contact to add to your network you've just made there. And I think that's important. I hope you've made lots of contacts today and made some new connections and used all of these opportunities. There's going to be more time to talk, so don't worry. There'll be more opportunities to talk during our session. So I talked a little bit about the fact that I'm a coach and what does it mean to be a coach and what is coaching? For me, it's about unlocking individual, team and organisational potential in order to maximise performance and enable positive change. And that's what being solution focused is about. It's about unlocking. Some of the frustration that we have and experience is that we know it's there. We know it's within us, but we don't know what the key is. We don't know how to unlock that. And sometimes you can see your team and you know there's so much that they could be doing and they've got so much potential, but you don't know what the thing to say or do is to really help them show what they've got and really develop that. So how do we enable that positive change? The solution-focused approach was developed by Gregory Bateson and John Weekland, who founded the Mental Research Institute in California. The Mental Research Institute studied therapeutic methods, and it led to a significant change in the way people were treated. So one of the significant things was that Steve DeCesar and Insoo Kim Berg, who left it, developed this brief therapy approach. So typically the approach is, say that I went to a therapist and I had an alcohol problem, I had a drink problem. What they'd probably do is say to me, okay, when did it start? What do you think is the root cause of it? You know, tell me about the episodes that you have and what occurs. And these people decided to take a very different approach. They wanted to think about when the problem doesn't occur, when the solution exists. So instead of asking those sorts of questions, they'd say, when don't you drink? Even if it's the first 5 minutes when you wake up in the morning, when is it? Even if it's the 2 seconds before you go to bed at night, when is it? When does the solution occur? When does the thing you most want happen? And how can we amplify that? It's really useful to think about what your approach to thinking is. Debbie talked about our thoughts and our thoughts becoming our actions. What we think about is what we materialize. And if we spend a lot of time thinking about the problem, what do we get? More problems, or the problem amplifies to be big and overwhelming. But what happens when we think about the solution and we focus on doing more of that? We get more of the solution. We get the thing that we most want. This is not easy for us, I don't think, particularly as women. I think we're very self-critical. When you go home in the evening, on your journey home, how much time do you spend saying, the 3 great things I did today were? And how much time do you spend saying, oh, I shouldn't have said that in the meeting, or I haven't got that done yet, or this is what I should have done? Typically, you spend a lot more time on that critical side, on the problem. And this is about how can we amplify what goes well and do more of it. When you do that, the problem minimizes and disappears. The philosophy is that people have difficulties all the time. But whatever your difficulties are, you will be resolving them on a daily basis. I talked earlier about the fact that I was really not comfortable with public speaking. But there were tiny pockets of time when I could speak openly, when I found it comfortable to do so. And I had to find out what was working there and make that bigger. Occasionally, a difficulty is mishandled and attempts to resolve it fail. And if this happens repeatedly, a problem is created and help is sought. The therapist, the manager, the coach, the mentor's job is to help the person to stop doing what isn't working and try something different. And once they find what's working, do more of it. Sounds really simple, doesn't it? But a lot of ideas are really simple, but we don't quite do them. Or they're so simple that we don't try them. And this is about action. I think one of the most important things to remember is that no person's problem happens all the time. Whatever you'd like to develop, whatever you think is a challenge for you, the solution will be occurring some of the time. The key is to have your solution-focused eyes on and ears open to discover when it and how it occurs in order to do more of it. There are 3 underpinning points. If it works, don't fix it. Don't mess with it, basically. The things that are working in your life, don't tamper with them. They're brilliant. Identify what works and do more of it. Spend some time actually thinking about what's going well for you and do more of that. Identify what doesn't work and try something different. Yeah? As Debbie said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Let it go. Ditch it if it's not working for you. Now, in order to go through this exercise, I want you to take on this mindset. In the mind of the expert, there are few possibilities. In the mind of the beginner, there are many. To do what you do, to work in your field, to study, whatever you're doing, you've had to use your knowledge and leverage that. You've had to become an expert, even if you might not use that term. Sometimes the knowledge that we already have gets in the way. It can be harmful to us. And so with this exercise that we're going to do, I want you to let it go. I want you to be open to not knowing, to the answers being different to what you might expect them to be, and to take on that beginner mindset. So, taking a solution-focused approach, if you're taking the problem-focused approach, you diagnose the problem, very much like a doctor. You try and find out the causes of the problem, and you use the information to address the problem. Who would say that's their typical approach now? Only one person? I think there's, yeah, I would imagine there's a few more, because that's the traditional approach to working things out, isn't it? You find out what's at the root of it, and you find a way to address it. And I think a lot of organisations work that way. To take a solution-focused approach, you recognise the solution, so you think about the outcome. You found counters and know-how, things that contribute to that solution. What is it that's already happening that can contribute to make it happen more? And you build the solution and vanish the problem. So you really focus in a very different place to where you would normally. Oops. So what I want you to do now, I want you to get into pairs. So we're going to work in pairs. And it would be great if you worked with someone who you don't know. Again, meet someone new. Be open, have your beginner mind, and share some experience with someone different in the room. I want you to think of a personal sparkling moment at work or in your studies over the past few months. A time when you felt really good about being there or the work you were doing. Now, some people might say, oh, I'm sick of work and there's nothing good going on and how on earth am I going to do that? It can be tiny. It can be you had a chocolate biscuit. It can be someone sent you a really nice email. It can be you actually left work on time for a change. Something small, or it could be something, something bigger. A great achievement might have happened over the last few months, but it doesn't have to be massive. Something small, some moment when you just felt good about work or study and what you were doing and felt very pleased with yourself. I want your partner to ask you about it. So take a few minutes to think of what it is. And your partner's going to ask you, really thinking with their solution-focused ears, how come? What was it about those moments that made them sparkle for you? I want your partner to get as much detail as possible. You know, what would people have noticed about you? Yeah? What were you saying or doing? Really concrete details. And your partner needs to listen and note what they say, because we're going to be using it afterwards. So the first thing is to do to think of a moment, yeah, over the last few months where something went well for you in your work or study. And when you've got that, your partner is going to ask you some questions about it. I'm going to keep the time, so we're going to have a couple of minutes each way on it, and then we're going to move on to the next phase in this exercise. But importantly, I'd really like you to work with someone who is not on your table, who you haven't worked with, and who you don't know, to really build another connection in the room, another person in your network who can help and support you through your career, your studies in the future. So get your partner, think of your sparkling moment, and I'll tell you when the time starts. 15, gosh, I haven't got much time. Prompts for you. Oh. You should all be sharing your sparkling moment.
When do you take the intention? What did you notice about you as you were given that intention?
Okay, if you could be bringing your conversations to a close, please. Okay, we're going to move on to the next stage now. Thank you. So, who is sitting next to someone who's resourceful? Who's sitting next to someone who's resourceful? Who's sitting next to someone who has a lot of resources and is able to do lots and who's doing great things? I hope so. Yeah, I expect all hands to be up. Because by sharing, you started to hear about some of the person's resources. And I'm sure everyone in this room is doing some really interesting things in terms of what their sparkling moment is. So what I want you to do now is, based on what your partner said, I want you to reflect on what you know about the excellent qualities, their skills and resources, and think for a moment. And then I want you to tell them. So I want you to find what you'd like to affirm them on. Perhaps they were really passionate about what they did. Perhaps they talked about great organisational skills. Perhaps you heard a real commitment to the work they do. I want you to think about what you'd like to affirm them on based on what you heard about their sparkling moment. And when you've both got what you'd like to say, I'd like you to say it to the person. When you hear what the person says to you, I want you just to say thank you, okay? I don't want you to say yes, but, or someone else helped, or what I didn't tell you I did was. I want you just to accept it for the gift it is, okay? So you're going to affirm each other on what you heard, the skills and qualities and attributes, what you heard from what they said, and then you're going to say thank you. And then we're going to move on to the next stage, okay? Has your person gone?
Yeah, my person.
Oh, okay, fine. Have you both affirmed already? You've both done it? Yes. Great. Have you done it? Have you done it already? Are you still? Yeah. Okay, has everyone done that now? You can let me know if you go quiet when you've all affirmed each other. Done? Everybody done? Yeah? Okay. Okay. Did everyone receive a compliment? Yeah. How was it?
Lovely.
It's good feeling, isn't it? Tell me, in the last week at work or in your work or in your studies, who's received a compliment? You. And who's given them? Yeah, a lot more. It's always a lot more giving compliments than receiving. It's a great feeling, isn't it? Yeah. And it's great not to push it back as maybe you might usually do. Mark Twain said, I can live 2 months on a good compliment. Imagine if we did a bit more of that. Now, you complimented someone else, but what about if you just complimented yourself more? What if you just noticed your unique skills and qualities and was able just to say, well done. You did pretty good work today. You're pretty amazing. If you could just find a way to do that more, you'd be having that feeling that you have right now so much more often. And that could be really helpful for you. Because when you're in that resourceful place, that place of feeling good about yourself, you're so much more likely, and it's so much more easy to think of new ideas, new ways of doing things, and being much more flexible and adaptable to change. So there's one final part of the exercise. I want you to ask your partner to choose a very small action, something they could do tomorrow morning, so nothing big, that would increase the likelihood of them having more sparkling moments. So say that the moment I had was that a customer or a student or someone said, oh, they had a good experience and I enjoyed that. What's a small thing I could do tomorrow to increase the likelihood of getting more emails like that? Whatever your moment was, what's the tiniest thing? Yeah? Whatever it is, I don't want it to be big. I don't want it to be something that's not doable. The tiniest thing you can do tomorrow morning to increase the likelihood of you having more of those moments. So if you ask each other and come up with a very small action. Is that clear for everyone? Yeah? Okay. Who's come up with actions here?
We've got to take an action. I know what my action's going to be.
Okay, I'll give you 2 more. I'll give you a minute or so. Just 1 more minute. So please come up with your actions. Okay, if you could be drawing your conversations to a close, please. Thank you. Who came up with a tiny action that they can do tomorrow? Who came up with a tiny action that they can do tomorrow? Fantastic, fantastic. So something small and doable that will increase the moments, increase those good moments, increase that solution happening. And who could see how you might use this activity in your life or in your work? How could you use it?
With my children.
Oh, great. Yeah. Yeah. So a little example, or you don't have to share?
When they lack confidence at certain things, to remind them of what they have done well recently and how they can bring that forward.
Fantastic. Thank you. How else?
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Is that possible? I know we shouldn't focus on problems, but how do you find solutions if you don't know what the problems are? How do you kind of get your head around finding what those solutions should be?
What you're doing is it's not a solution in this term of the solving of a problem, it's the solution in terms of the ideal outcome that I want for myself.
Right.
So you don't think of, I'm looking for the solution to a problem, you think, what do I really want?
Okay.
So a flat tire is a non-starter.
Well, if that's what you went with, then you could, definitely think of how you could have less flat tires and what's behind that if you wanted to. But yeah, it's a different kind of one. Well, how else could you use it? So we said with children.
With the team, the motivational tool.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Really good for one-to-ones, really good for team meetings. Yeah. What else?
Just for yourself, just to give yourself a goal for the next day, so you have something to achieve.
Absolutely. Well, also just to give yourself a pat on the back. Say, what have I done? Yeah. What great stuff have I done, and how can I do even more of that so I can feel good?
Could use it in relationships.
Absolutely, yeah, really good, yeah. So it has so many uses. So take this tool away and use it. It's a very helpful, quick tool. It's only taken us a few minutes and you've come up with an action. You've come up with a way forward. And even if your action seems small and you think, well, that's not going to make a major difference in my life, small actions are a catalyst for much more. So I'm going to leave you finally with my 3 A's. And these A's are about confidence, because ultimately, confidence is at the heart of your success, and confidence is sometimes the thing that we may feel is holding us back, and that activity helps to build confidence. But for me, the 3 A's are awareness of self, yeah, and that's been said by both of the speakers previous to me, yeah. Awareness of others is wisdom. Awareness of self is enlightenment, yeah. How do you get your self-awareness? How do you become more self-aware? Get more feedback. You had affirmation feedback just now, and you had to accept it. Find ways to get feedback as much as you possibly can. Get a journal, reflect. Become much more aware of your thoughts and feelings. So awareness of self is key. Secondly, for me, articulate your story. Every idea that you hold dear has a seed in your personal experience. Yeah? Whatever you're doing, the way you think, the values that lead the way you live are based on your experience. Whether that's, I have a cause I'm passionate about, whether that's all of my skills and experience have come together to make me the person that I am, whether that's I've had to struggle and this struggle makes me think and behave the way I do. That experience makes you who you are. And I believe that when you're able to articulate your story, you don't have to apologize for who you are. You don't have to change in environments, in organizations in order to fit in, because your story justifies who you are and why you do things and why you're so good about being you. When you articulate your story, you have a passion for your purpose. You have the determination to achieve results. You make decisions from your head, your heart, and your gut. And you have long-term sustainable relationships. Working on your story will help you be more self-aware. Will give you gravitas. Will really help you know what's important to you and go in the right career direction. So work on that story. Who am I? What am I about? What's so good about being me? And the last is act. And when I say act, what I'm really talking about is don't wait. Don't wait to be more beautiful, to be slimmer, to be more intelligent. Don't wait for the economy to change. Don't wait for people around you to change. Act, because confidence comes after you act. It doesn't come before. So don't wait to be confident. Thank you very much for your patience and for listening today. I hope you really took something from that session. And I just want to point out to you these postcards on your tables that say Happinista Project on them. I have a new program starting in January, and the first month is free to everyone who registers. So if you want a boost to your life and to yourself in January, please sign up for this free program in January. Thank you so much, Lydia.